tonight as always. Every Wednesday is a treat, as you are familiar, and here we are tonight again. And I have a couple of my friends, longtime friends, who are joining me from Africa. Is that Abidjan? Abidjan, whenever that we hear that all later on Africa. All right. On the Ivory Coast, they're joining me. Mr. and Mrs. Godfrey Renee Rutta. They're joining me live from Africa. So hey, let's when I come back, I'll be talking to my friends live from Africa. Hang in there, my friends. We will be talking to them when I come back. ORB Ministry presents Let's Talk with the Doc. Grace Without Borders podcast. A thought for you. Ask Pastor. And a whole lot more. You never know what's next or who will join the conversation. All right, so I have with me Mr. Godfrey Rutta and Mrs. Renee Rutta. They're joining me from Africa, way down on the east of the world. That's where they're joining me from, and it is late where they are. So it's, in my opinion, it's a sacrifice to join me tonight, and I want to tell them how much I appreciate them. Godfrey staying up and Renee waking up, so they can join me. I want to welcome you to Let's Talk with the Doc. Who do I talk to first? Who's taking the lead? Let me say, Mr. Godfrey, hey, good to see you, man. It's been a long time since I'm looking at you like that. How are things going?
Things are going good, Doc. It's been a long time for sure. So long ago. Sorry, the
Yeah, you
mic
got
is
you
on
got to
this
give me
side.
some energy in your microphone there, right? So make sure
Yeah.
give
Okay.
okay.
Yeah. It it
All
it
right.
has been a while, Doctor. Yeah.
It has been a while.
Yes.
Simple said and done, right? Yeah, Renee, how has it been with you?
Everything's good. It's nice to see you again and hear your voice again. I was trying to remember the last time we saw you. I think was maybe 2008, maybe, or actually 2007, maybe.
Right before I went to Virginia.
Hmm.
The last time you saw me physically, that you could actually
Yeah,
touch me.
physically. Hmm.
That's been a long, long time. A long, long time. All right. So although I know you guys a while ago, but I've never gotten a chance to tap into your real story. And if I did, I don't remember what the real story was. So I'm going to take the opportunity to tap into your real story tonight, find out something more about you that I've never found out before. All right. So so why don't you tell me. I'm gonna begin with Godfrey because this is interesting. The guy is born in Uganda. The guy from Uganda end up in America. Godfrey, tell me a little bit about your Uganda story. What was it like when you just realized that you're into this new world? It's born in Uganda. Tell me what your beginning days were like. Parents, siblings. What was it like for you in your early days?
My early days were obviously I was born in Uganda, and I was there till I was about 18. So I actually started off in Uganda, and it was the days when Idi Amin was still in power. So there was some uncertainty in that. My parents were threatened. So we had to flee. We lived in Kenya for a little bit. and then eventually came to Ivory Coast, and so that's where I ended up going to school, and eventually going to the United States. So it wasn't all Uganda. It was Uganda, Kenya, and then Ivory Coast,
Where we are now.
So what
where
was
we
it?
are
What
right
was it? What was it? What was it like with your family? How many siblings you have? And tell me a little bit more about the story that you were told about, what happened and when Godfrey was born in Uganda, and the transitions. What happened there? What were you told? Because you wouldn't know much. So what did they tell you unfold? And how many siblings do you have?
in my case, it's maybe it's more and more common now. I'm from um, two unmarried people. So basically, my father, before he married my current step, my not married, but basically moved to be with my current stepmom. I had like five brothers on one side, and on my father's side, I had yeah, I had like three other brothers. So in total, we're like eight people.
Hmm.
What was I told? I didn't have much of a story in terms of being told the past because I moved from one to the other, and the two didn't really mix much up until I was a bit older.
Okay. Okay. All right. So on your personal experience, before you get to 18, when you leave to come to the United States, what were your personal experience, moving from one point to the, at what point did you know that something was dangerous and you had to move, there had to be a transition, you had to relocate? At what point did you personally know that, and how did that impact you?
You know, I think as a kid I was just pretty. I don't want to say naive. I just trusted my parents. As long as the parents were there, I was fine. So um, it got really bad. I remember one time being left at school um, around 7, and they were, I think, and it was kind of dangerous at the time because the soldiers could take you at any time and so forth. But yeah, I was scared a little bit. But as long as somebody older than me was there to handle the situation, I wasn't really too shaken. So that was about 9 or 10 that I noticed that. But because we moved, the transitions were, kind of also took away from the focus. So going from Uganda to Kenya, new world, ways of doing things, and from there, a few years later, to Ivory Coast, new language. It took away the blunt of whatever it could have been.
So you said that soldiers could have taken you. What would, if a soldier took you, and why, and what would they do with you if they took you?
I don't know, but all I knew that my stepmom was scared, and she had to get somebody to come help us to help pick me up. Um, so we just don't know. It was one of those uncertain times. It was actually a scary time. I think if you look in your newspapers, you can in the history you can see that those times where people being hanged and things like that were happening. But again, like I said, for me, as long as I had it grown up around me, I didn't really focus on that. But it was happening, and it was a possibility of
Was
something.
that like a political conflict or a civil conflict? What was it? What kind of conflict was it?
It wasn't civil. It was we had a dictator in the country, so you have to be careful.
Okay.
Uh, Anybody who appeared to be an opposant was was considered dangerous. In my case, my father was actually friends with a minister, and the minister actually, when I say minister, not a minister of the gospel, but a country, a minister in the government, and he was actually ended
Hmm.
up being killed. And so that's what actually led my father to flee
Wow.
the country and
Wow.
go to Kenya. Yeah, because we're a potential
Okay.
threat, even though my father was not political.
Okay. All right. Well, that's a good piece. Some of those I never know before because we never sit down and really talk like detail on that. Maybe I'll come back and get a little bit when you grow up. So I'm going to Miss Renee now, because this is two different kettle of fish, different continents that these two people are from. Renee, you're a girl from Vermont. It's a United States girl. Tell me what your story was like in Vermont where Renee was born, how she grew up, what was or environment, family dynamics? What's really early story that you can recall?
Well, I'm a Vermonter. I came from the mountains, beautiful green mountains of Vermont. Um, my mom was born in the same hospital as myself and my brother, and my father was born in his family home, which we lived next to my whole life. Um, my mom had one brother, and my father was one of five. And we lived in a very small town where some of my parents' teachers were actually my teachers. And it was a
Some of your
simple,
parents' teacher were your teachers too.
yeah, it was a very simple and wonderful life. I was able to do things in a little school, like play basketball. I wasn't really any good at it, but we needed enough people to make a team. So I was able to have opportunities that I would have never had in a big school. I did a lot of extracurricular activities, basketball, softball, lots of plays and musicals. And I wasn't really a serious student, wasn't really a good student, but I enjoyed my life. I took advantage of everything that was offered. So yeah, it was a good life, and I lived next door to my grandparents, which was wonderful. We were separated by one garden in the raspberry garden, so it was a wonderful life. We would slide to school in the winter and hang out in the snowbanks until my dad came home from work. It's just me and my brother, and it was a nice and simple, wonderful life.
Okay, all right, all right. So you grew up in a nice environment. You had the surroundings of your grandparents. So you were well taken care. Everything was comfortable and cool for you. Unlike the man next to you, where things were much more disruptive in his life, right? So. All right. So tell me now. You grew up as a young lady. You grew up, and what was it like growing up and getting into school and stuff like that? What was it like for you in Vermont?
Well, I wasn't an incredibly strong student, but I was the first in my family to go to college, and I received my bachelor's in Castleton. So I went into social work. Um, it wasn't until many, many, many years later.
We're gonna get into the after college thing. We're gonna get
Okay,
into the after college thing
okay.
because we gotta find out about you and Godfrey get to college. So we're gonna get to the college. Tell me a little bit more growing up before college because I want to get to the college thing because that's gonna be interesting.
Mm.
What was it
So
like before getting into college, growing up into elementary, high school, etc.?
okay, so uh, I was incredibly close to my father. In my dad, I remember growing up in a trailer and my dad having this dream of building a house. So when I was in third grade, my dad began building a house behind our trailer. And I remember going through every single step, learning how to stain and learning how to paint. And I remember our first winter, we lived in a house with no plumbing, but we had electricity. I remember we had scarlet fever that year. Um,
Oh,
I remember when I was about in sixth grade, my parents were struggling in the relationship, and they ended up getting a divorce. So I remember that.
oh,
Um,
sorry to hear that.
and no, and I also remember that my brother and I chose to stay with my dad. So we were uh, maybe 12, maybe where we chose to stay with my dad in Vermont in our family home, and my mom moved to Florida. So,
Oh,
uh, yeah, but I think I was the only one out of all my friends who had a father because most of my friends had come from broken homes, but they were with their moms. So it was kind of an ironic twist. But I have a very magnificent relationship with my dad. He's really a wonderful, wonderful man, and yeah, I thank God for his influence even now in my life. So it's
that's
interesting.
that's. I was just gonna say that's the very word I was gonna use. That's very interesting. So, yeah, I spoke to a lady that my guest I had last week. she had the same kind of experience with her and her sibling, because their mom went away and two girls were growing up with the father.
Mm,
Apparently, more or less, it wasn't as nice as yours sound to be. They went through, if I could use the term, almost hell on earth growing up with their father, for different reasons. She was on my program last week. So from Vermont to Florida, that is almost as far a distance you can get on the northeast, because Vermont is almost as far north as you can get, and Florida is as far south as you can get. So how did that impact you? You guys stayed with your father. Um,
mm.
how did that impact you, and what was the relationship with your mother, even in the distance?
Okay, so ironically, ironically, uh, I had a very tumultuous relationship with my mom. My mom, unfortunately, was not. Uh, she was she was a woman who wasn't so incredibly loving and let's say um, she was very goal oriented, and we had a very strict upbringing with her. Whereas my dad was very much relaxed, and we could just go in the garage or go out in the yard and do a project with dad. In fact, I believe, just to be really honest, in probably from the age of maybe uh, 11 or so till 15, I remember honestly sharing with my teachers that I hated my mom. That was a really strong
Oh,
word, but I remember really confessing that to my teachers. She was rough verbally and physically, and really, uh, we chose to be with my dad because that was the solid rock, and that was the he was easy and predictable.
hmm. So your mom was a little unpredictable. So you didn't want to be. You want to live in the unpredictability of your mother. You wanted to stick to what is
Yeah.
more, predictable. Say, okay, I know what my dad will do. So I,
Hmm.
I rather stick with him. All right, and so what the relationship is like now between you and your
Okay.
mom? You said it was rocky back then. What is it like now?
Yeah, well, the most important thing that I should share with you is in March of '88, when I was 15, uh, we were invited to a church. And I just remember as a child in our town, we only had a Catholic church and a Federated church, which was United Methodist and United Church of Christ. And my friends were going to confirmation class, and they had invited me, and I wanted to be with my friends. My parents had told me about this person named Jesus, but we didn't. We just talked about him for Christmas or Easter, but we didn't have a relationship. So at 15, we were invited to church. This woman I was working with my mother in a restaurant in Killington at a ski resort, and we found that she was kind of peculiar and odd. But we said, well, we'll go try it. We'll go try it out. And in fact, right during that confirmation class, uh, I had gone on a field trip with a confirmation class, and we went to Dartmouth College, and I experienced for the very first time in my life a gospel choir. And I
Hmm.
didn't understand what was going on then, but the Holy Spirit was really ministering to me, and I cried for 2 hours straight. And I just
Wow.
remember thinking, whatever they're singing about, I don't know what this is, but I want to know what this is. So this was a
Wow.
really big thing in my life. I'm very musically inclined. When I went and saw that gospel choir, I had never ever seen anything like it before, and I could not understand I couldn't understand the words they were saying, having a love for Jesus, having a need for Jesus, praising Jesus, because I'd come from a traditional church where we sang out of the hymnal, and I'd never had those feelings before. And like I said,
Hmm.
shortly after, we were invited to church, And my brother and my mother and I, within a couple short weeks, became born again. And that was really the changing factor in my whole life. Um, Before I had, uh, you know, God really did a wonderful healing in our life. So,
So that was your biological mother. After everything, your biological mother, yourself, and your brother
mhm,
all got to church, all influenced by something new, and
mm,
all gave your lives to the Lord.
all gave us.
Your lives to the Lord.
Yes, yes. You, yes, we all gave our lives to the Lord. And
Wow.
really that was the turnaround. I mean, it wasn't a uh, perfect situation after, but it began the healing process of my mom and I. And my brother
Wow.
and I were close because we were still little. And so we were close, but yeah, for sure, that was a huge turnaround in our life. My mom,
Wow.
I think my mom left permanently after that, but at least God had begun his work in our lives.
Wow. That is a beautiful piece of a story. That little piece there is
Mhm.
beautiful, because what that shows to others who might listen to that story is the power of redeeming grace,
Yes.
and the change that brings, and the power of reconciliation that comes into that, or come out of that. So that is great testimony. I'm glad that happened. I don't remember if I heard anything like that, but that is just really, really good to hear. All right, so we're gonna come back to Mr. Godfrey. So in your teenage, you got this salvation thing. Godfrey, what was your story? We're gonna get right into college. Did you, in your environment, did you have Christianity around your circle? What was it like in your neighbor, in your neck of the woods when you were growing up?
You have to start with your testimony, how you came to it.
Actually, what I can do is I probably go backwards a little bit from when we started. So, um, um, when I was growing up in Uganda, uh, when my dad left, had to flee, he went to Kenya. We were there for like 2 or 3 years. After those 2 years, we came back to Uganda in 1 year, and then after that, we went to Ivory Coast. When we went to Ivory Coast, I was not particularly they put me in different school, and I was not particularly a good student, and I didn't do well. I think my brother and I, my other brother on my stepmother's side, we didn't do particularly well. So we went to a school called La Farando it's in Abidjan. Eventually, what they did, I think out of desperation, pretty much, is to send us back to English. So they ended up finding a missionary school, which was about at the time like 6 hours away. So we both went to boarding school, and it was a pure missionary school. When I say that, it was a mixture of from Australia, missionaries from Europe, missionaries from all over and children would come and stay. Those would be the children of missionaries would actually go to school there. So it was like a boarding school. So I go to during that time I was with, Australians and British, Americans, some Africans. Well, Africans were very few, but mostly was just Europeans. So that's where I actually ended up giving my life to the Lord. Um, uh, yeah, so that to me that was the beginning. When I gave my life to the Lord,
Mhm.
it was like the beginning. But in those early days, you give your life to the Lord at probably 4 or 5 or 6 times because you're not sure.
Mhm.
So that was my first. At 12, I gave my life to the Lord, and I think I did it at 13 again. And then I think I became sure of what it was. But
Mhm.
the biggest thing for me during that time, during that boarding school, and I was in boarding school from the ages of 12 to about 18, 19. Okay, that's when I left there. I used to run track a lot. Um, and I had this teacher called
Mhm.
it was a dorm parent. His name was Dan, and he did a very simple thing that impressed me to this day. He just because I was older than the other kids, I kind of again I was late. I'd lost some years in my schooling, and we had schedules. So basically, each age group would come and have their devotions and then go to bed. But me, I was in a lower class, but had to be with the older people. So the older people were still doing something in class, and I had free time. So he said to me, Godfrey, you have this 30 minutes. Why don't we just read the Bible together? That's all he
Mhm.
did for me. And we'd sat down and would read for one semester. I'd read differently. He would do his own reading, I'd do my own reading. So it wasn't like he put me down, and that was it. To me, that was the beginning when I started reading the Bible and understanding it for myself. That was a big change for me. So that wasn't as
So my
about
wife is
from.
asking.
Look,
Yeah,
hi,
my
Mama
wife is
Dina.
asking if you're good at. She's asking if you were good at tracks. So,
I was a champion for quite so many years. Yes,
oh,
I
excuse
still have
me.
records that stand. Yeah,
You still have records standing in your school?
yes, yeah. The school was
What?
closed down, I think, 10 years ago. Yeah,
Wow. Wow. I would have never look at Godfrey and thought Godfrey was a track and field guy. And I would have never thought that. But then again, you never doubt the Africans, right? Because they have reasons to run. All right, so that's interesting. That's interesting. That is news to me, and that's what this program does. You get stories that you've never known before. I'm talking to my friend's longtime brother and sister. We'll get into the story a little bit more. Godfrey and Renee Rutta, they are joining us from Abidjan. Is Abidjan, Africa. So there, it's 5 hours ahead of us. So it's you know what time it is there now. So I want to appreciate them for getting up to join me at this time on Let's Talk with the Doc. All right, so you guys, that was really, 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 as my wife said, unassuming. I that is unassuming is an understatement. That Godfrey was a track and field genius. Who would have thought that? If you wake me up and ask me that, I would have never. I said, "Are you kidding me? No way." No way.
I
And
used
now
to
I'm
love
hearing
it.
it. I would
That's
have.
all I like to do.
Yeah, well, you surprised me with that one. So kudos to you. Kudos to you. You surprised me with that one. All right. So now you guys have those humble beginnings, those early Christian experiences. They came in unique ways, different unique ways, which is interesting. Thank God that he doesn't have a one way of reaching us, because then some people would be left behind. But he's so good in his ability to design something in our path, because he knows and knows what the future will be like. And so he carved out a path of salvation for you both in your young ages. And so now you moved to America. Tell me how the America part of your life from Uganda, how did that unfold? How that developed as you decide to come to America? How did that happen?
Well, it was the next natural progression because we had to go to college. Um, uh, Fortunately, my dad was working for an institution. Actually, I'm working for the same institution he worked for. Um,
Wow.
so that's what afforded us to be able to go to school. And so it was an exciting time for me. I because up until then our experience of America was the TV. You could see it on TV, the snow on TV, everything on TV. But I got to go there and live it, and I enjoyed it. It was fun. So yeah, it was good. It was a bit of a challenge in terms of cultures because you're coming from one culture to another. But even that, I think, because of media and so forth, you're kind of at an advantage in that you kind of know some of these things already. You just have to live them to kind of, to assimilate them.
Mhm.
But it was okay. It was exciting for me because it was new frontier.
I can see. I can see even now it's still exciting for you. So, all right. So Renee, you guys ended up going to the same college. Um, where do you go to college, Renee?
I went to school in Johnson, which is in northern Vermont, and then I finished my bachelor's in Castleton, which is near Rutland, and I also did a year of Bible school in Tulsa. Um, And in my last not my second to last semester, my second last semester of school is actually when I met Godfrey, because Godfrey was living in Rochester, New York, and I'm from Rochester, Vermont. So that's how it all started.
Mm. Okay, so I now I'm curious now, right? I'm curious because this question that I wanted to ask, and I hope I can get a good answer. I wanted to ask what developed. How come an African guy from Uganda finds himself in America and 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 somehow a Caucasian girl born in America. I am curious. I am so curious, and I can't wait to hear what triggered, who made the move, who, how did this develop, that this Ugandan guy or this American girl reaching out to this Ugandan guy, or this Ugandan guy reaching out to this American girl? I'm curious. Tell me how that developed. Tell me.
Renee has better words. Go ahead.
Is it? I can't imagine that it's just Rochester.
Yeah, I just, it was, it's still a mystery to us after all these years. It really is. It's quite the
Yeah.
mystery. I was waiting for a friend who introduced us, and so we started talking. And we had learned a little bit about each other. We met through a friend, and we were enjoying talking. I, uh, for me, I was just enjoying, because we were talking about the things of God, and where I grew up, I was the only person I knew who was born again. After I became born again, I came back to the church I had grown up in, and really convict with conviction told my pastor, I've found Jesus, and I've asked him to be my savior. I want to make sure the church knows it, because I had never heard the actual message in our church,
Wow.
uh, being from a traditional congregational church. And his response to me was, I'm glad uh, you've had this experience, but no. So anyway,
He said, but no.
all no, but all through high school and through college, really, I was really starving for uh, fellowship with other believers. And it's not easy to find believers in a high school setting, especially in a teeny little town. We had three towns and 80 people in our high school. So we had a very small community. And then when I went to state school, they did have a Christian group on campus. So I did find other believers. But it was very exciting to talk to anybody about the things of God, because
Mm,
it was
okay.
an area of
Okay.
my life that especially at the college I was at, I don't remember having any kind of a group. Although I was attending church, I didn't have people in my peer group. So for me, I was excited to talk to somebody um, who was my age and was passionate about the things of God. So for sure, even within a very short period of time, I enjoyed talking to him. But it was not a face to
Okay.
face relationship. Go ahead.
Okay, so you started talking about the things of God. So who this
hmm
friend that told you about this? What was the introduction to you? Said I know this guy. What I know this guy. I'd like you to talk to him. What was that like? This African guy. What was the introduction of your friend to this guy? Is it just like we can talk salvation things, or was something more intimate that your friend want to introduce you to?
For me, uh, I had just been introduced to him. I didn't know anything about him, but I just, I, I was, I was honestly very excited to talk to anybody about the Lord. So that's really how it started.
So basically, during that time, I was obviously in college, but I used to work at the IT help desk, and my goal over there was not just to do IT, was to tell people about the Lord. So I think that's all I talked about to her, and it turned out that that's what she liked to talk about as well. So it was a natural thing. So we hang out more because of
Hmm.
that, and you know.
And I think in my younger years, definitely not like now, but in my younger years, I was very feisty. I liked to live on the edge, and I used to work with I used to work with convicts and stuff, so I had no fear at all. So I just was like, I just I just remember him saying, "You're from Rochester. I'm living in Rochester, New York. Is there really a Rochester, New York, Vermont?" And I remember him challenging me, going, if this is really it, let's meet up halfway and like see what this is all about." So I said, sure, let's do it. Where do you want to meet? And it was really before there was like Google Maps and stuff. So we just had to find something between the two places, and we met up.
So you were still, so even though you were talking, you weren't at the same place.
No, because we were 6 hours apart.
Oh, you're 6 hours apart.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
you were just having phone communication kind of thing, or
Yep.
uh
Phone and emails
oh
and just
oh
encouraging. Yeah. Hmm.
okay, okay. I thought you were having lunch together. I thought you were at the same location. Like, let's sit down and
No,
talk about Christ. Oh
no.
my goodness! Now that is even more interesting. That you're
Yeah.
talking about Christ. You so want to talk about Christ that even in the distance, you just find somebody who could relate to what you were experiencing and
Hmm.
could have a conversation. And that is interesting.
Hmm. Yeah.
Okay, all
I
right. So
yeah.
go ahead.
No, I just found Godfrey very easy to talk to, and very interesting. And yeah, even from the very beginning when I met him, I could see he had a lot of wisdom, and I could see that he was a godly man. So I was very intrigued by his story, and for sure,
To just to add to what she's saying, okay, one of the things she said to me early on was she was just to show you how much her interaction with Christians was very limited. She tell me, "You're the best Christian that I know." So that tells you that she didn't know very many people, and
no, that's
we're very few.
yeah, yeah, someone who talks the talk but walks the walk. I had really never experienced that. Being on a in a college environment, and you know, I mean, there are definitely young people who know the Lord and are committed to the things of God, but for sure, in my environment, I wasn't seeing that. I was seeing the talk, but not so much of the walk.
I can't believe Godfrey just said that. He said that, oh, he was so impressed because you told him that she is the best Christian you ever know, and he concluded right then. I guess you don't know many Christians.
Yeah, something like that.
Oh wow, that is a very interesting story. That is a very interesting story. So okay, so you guys met somewhere in the middle, 6 hours apart, and was that? I would assume that you guys shared pictures before you met, right?
I don't think so. No, I don't think
No,
We
so.
were talk people. We just talked a lot.
Hmm.
or you didn't never even share pictures.
Hmm.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
So tell me, all right. So tell me what happened at the meeting now that we're gonna meet now. Tell me what happened.
Well, we met, and ironically, we both had very interesting first impressions. Um, for me, I did know that he was black. I did not know, I had never met him. So at least we were aware of that. What was your first impression of me? Do you remember? You told me. I remember if you don't remember.
I don't know.
You don't remember? You told me. You told me my first impression of you. He said I was very loud and talkative, and I was very. I have matured a little bit. I'm not as excitable, but am definitely still a friendly person. But his first impression of me was that I was too.
The life of the party. Oh my gosh, yeah.
Mm. And my impression of him was that he was just very dark because I had never actually met an African before, right?
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Don't forget I'm from Vermont.
Mm.
Not a lot of exposure.
Yeah, 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 yeah. That was an interesting, wow. The first impression, meeting the first time in the middle of our journeys, we run into each other. I've never seen a guy so dark. I met an African up close and personal. And this Vermont girl that he's meeting, this Vermont girl from way up in the cool side of America, northeast, high up in the Vermont, and she's white and I'm black, but we both love Christ. and and
Mm.
and how did it go from there? The first impression that he said, "Oh yeah, she's the life of the party," and he's Mr. Layback. Until today, he's still Mr. Layback. I won't even tell you. I won't even tell you what he told me while we were preparing and planning for this. I wouldn't even tell you what he told me, but maybe he told you that. But oh yeah, Renee can get it out. Renee. She'll even keep the date to make sure that the date come to reality. So he still leave that on you. So tell me what happened after. Yes, as my wife says, she's a life of the party, but she's one of the sweetest person that you can run across. She really is. That's a sweet, sweet person, friendly, sociable, nice. Uh, Speak up her mind, and you can hear it, but one of the sweetest persons. So I'm glad to know you guys. So tell me what happened after you guys after. So okay, now you meet and you're gone back. What went through your mind after you met now? What did you say to yourself, Renee, after you met this guy for the first time? What you said to yourself after he's gone back? After he was gone
Well,
back,
and
what did you say to yourself?
well, I mean, honestly, even to this day, I really thank God for His depth and His conviction of Christ. It's His best attribute to me because as a now a wife, it is much easier to trust Him, and knowing that He has a relationship with Christ, it absolutely was the biggest influencer for me because I just know even to this day that what he does, although he's not perfect, his heart is right. And to me, even from the very beginning, it was the, it was really, it was what drew me to him because it was his life and his actions. He's not a perfect person, but he's one who is serious about the things of God. It absolutely was the thing that drew me to him the most.
Wow. Wow.
For me,
So
it
so
was.
yeah, yeah.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
For me, it was her dedication at the time. She was very dedicated, and like she was just real. So that's what I liked about her at the time. And we ended up having a lot of conversations. Actually, we used to have a huge phone bills, so we used to call each other all the time and talk.
This is
Um,
true. Huge phone
yeah, we
bills.
used to have. So we used to talk a lot.
Hmm.
Um,
Mm.
so
Yeah, I
Okay,
forgot about
because
the phone.
back then it wasn't unlimited talk, right? It
Mm-mm.
was
it was a
unlimited talk like
WhatsApp.
it is now.
Yeah, even even we didn't have cell phones,
Yeah.
so yeah.
You
But
had
yeah,
to. Oh, you didn't have cell phones back then.
no. So I do know that we met on my father's birthday, and a year and 4 days later we were married. So something happened in between then.
Wow. Wow. So that is just fascinating story. That is just really, really interesting and intriguing story. I didn't know the depth of
Mm,
that story. This is like brand new to me. Hearing how that came together. That is
mhm.
just fascinating because and you guys have been together. Seemed like you were designed for each other. You complemented each other, as my wife just noted here a while ago. You reached out to each other from your early days of Christianity. You were the fallback to person for the other one, and here you are, 25 years coming up next month. After that, you guys are still hanging in there. All right, so my friends, I'm talking to Godfrey Rutta and Renee Rutta, my friends, coming live from say that for me, say it for me, let me get it. Abijah.
Abidjan.
Abidjan.
Abijah.
Abidjan. Yeah.
Abijah,
Sorry,
okay,
the
Abijah
mic
with
is
a,
here in case you're wondering why I keep talking over
okay.
you.
Abijah, Abijah. Okay, Abijah. They're coming to me from Africa, and they are coming. Well, Godfrey is to and from, are back and away and back to Africa, and Renee is into Africa. So let me go now into some of what we see here. So I remember, and I somebody noted it here, that I met you guys. I met you guys many years after you sealed your vow, and Renee ended up coming into Rochester. So you didn't move to Rochester, Vermont. She moved to Rochester, New York.
Mhm.
And I happened to be in Rochester, New York, and I don't even remember. Maybe Renee, who has a good memory, maybe she'll remember how we met in Rochester. But I know I met you guys in Rochester, and somebody's telling me here, remind me when we met in Rochester. And do you remember how that happened, Renee? You remember how that happened?
So after we got married, we were in Florida, and actually, I met you only after 9 months of marriage, and I remember very clearly how I met you. I remember meeting you at the CVS on Portland and Norton. It was my first job in Rochester, New York, and I was working as a cashier. And I remember, because remember, we've already discussed I'm very friendly, right? I remember you coming to the cash register and asking for a tax exemption because you were buying it for the church. So someone
Right.
mentioned church, right? So
Yeah, yeah,
I just
yeah.
wanted to identify as one of you, right? So we started talking about it, and that from that time, you had invited me to your church, and well, you know the history after that. But I
I
remember,
so I so remember now that was a pharmacy meeting. I now that you say it, I remember meeting you at the pharmacy. Now that you say that, yes. So go ahead.
no, I think I worked there maybe for 6 or 9 months. We had just gotten to Rochester because my mom was in Florida, and she had a business, and Godfrey thought, well, as your family has a business, I should be a part of it as we're family. And I said, no, 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 I don't think that's a good idea. He's like, I can contribute to the family's business. And I said, oh, it's not so easy. And we stayed, and then we decided that we'd go back to Rochester and see what we could do there, because Godfrey had been in school there. He had connections, and we had some friends there, and I had just landed, and that was my first job in Rochester. And in fact, the other highlight of that job was after I had moved from this teeny, 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 little teeny town in Vermont. I, I, I had met up there with a armed robber. So I remember being held up by gunpoint at that same CVS pharmacy as he
Oh,
jumped on the
really?
counter. Yes, he jumped on the counter and
Oh,
took all of my
wow.
cash. But yeah,
Oh, wow.
I remember my father thinking, my father was like, first she marries this man from Africa. Now she's being held up by gunpoint. What has happened to my daughter? But yeah, part of the testimony. So yeah, it was an
Wow.
exciting
Wow.
time for us.
Well,
But yeah,
well, thank God that He covered you, and here you
yeah,
are with only a testimony. That test
yeah.
only became a testimony
uh
of God's goodness. Wow.
So yeah, that's how I
Wow.
found
So
you.
yeah, you're right. Now that you said it, so my wife is asking Godfrey if she thought you were on the Ivory Coast. So I think you're still on the Ivory Coast. So she maybe needed to clarify that for her to understand that.
Yeah, we are in Ivory Coast as the country. Abidjan is the city, the capital. Well, it's not the capital, it's well.
It's a business
It's a
capital.
it's a business capital. So we're in Ivory Coast, which is in West Africa,
Between,
between Ghana and Senegal.
no, Liberia.
Oh, Liberia, excuse me. Yeah.
Right on the coast. We're on the Atlantic Ocean.
Yes. Very humid here.
Okay. Okay.
Very humid.
Very.
They,
Just like
Oh
Vermont.
they
wow.
speak French, not English. So yeah, that's where we are. And I think I just lost my train of thought. I was going to say something. Oh, I do remember her telling me about you, Reverend. She'd call me and say, I've met this guy. He's a pastor. You should go to his church. I go, yeah, yeah, okay. And then she'd keep on telling me. It took me like 3 or 4 times. So eventually found ourselves at your church. Yeah, that was Renee.
Yeah, I remember. I remember you guys coming there, man, and we established a good relationship. Thank God for that, and the relationship is still lasting up till now. Even though you guys, walk away and went south and then went far east again after that. South wasn't far enough. You went far east and you make sure you're gone far enough that I can't even come close to even touching you. You guys just leave and go so far out of sight, out of mind. We're gonna make sure that he can't even get to where we are. You're gonna
We'll
be
be back, man.
assured if he's gonna try.
We'll be back.
Say it
The
again.
airplane goes, huh?
You will be back.
Yeah, we'll be
You
I
back.
will be
don't think
back.
we're ever going back.
Oh, Renee,
To visit, but I don't know if we'll live.
Well,
God knows.
Godfrey's still dreaming, so don't break his dream, right? He's still dreaming, he's still dreaming. So I'm not gonna get into the part where you told me some time ago that I'm gonna leave that part of the live, Godfrey, because if God wants that to happen, I'm still gonna wait to see if it's gonna become a reality, right?
That's what I was referring to.
Because
Glad you caught on,
you
Pastor. That's what I was
yeah.
referring to.
Even me, I missed it.
That's what I was referring to.
Okay, okay, okay. All right. Well, we'll see. We'll talk about that offline so we don't get anybody included who not supposed to be included. All right. So again, I'm talking to my friends live from Abidjan, Africa, down on the Ivory Coast in between whatever they are coming to me live from. This is a very special couple, very special friend of ours, my wife and I, and met them a long, long time ago, a long time ago, and we retain a relationship even though we are distance away, and even though Godfrey is so hard to get a response from him sometime, hard to get a response from Renee, but I'm determined sometimes just to hear from my friends and to see how they're doing. And so, by the way, the relationship started in Rochester. That was 1998, 97, 98. You said that was? You got married
1990s.
in
Yeah.
97, right?
Mm-hmm.
So maybe
Yeah.
98 we got to know you,
Yeah.
and then I had the opportunity, the blessings of blessing their first boy, Josiah, and so I am on the record in their lives, blessing their baby, the first one that the Lord brought into the world, and that can be changed. History will record that. All right, so
Amen.
just before we go further, I noticed something here, about Josiah, Moriah, and Azariah. Before I go into anything else, tell me what's up with the Rayas and the Ayas. What's the story behind the Ayas and Raya? What's the story behind that?
Well, um, when before I met Renee, I used to read the Bible, and one of the stories of Josiah. And my prayer to the Lord was that give me a son, and I'll name him Josiah, so that he can be like Josiah in following you from an early age. And well, we got the first boy. I called him Josiah, and I think we had decided that if it was a boy, I would name him. If it was a girl, she would name him. So when we got the girl next, it was Renee's turn. So she thought that you'd keep the Aya. So that's how we did that.
It's
And
Okay,
so,
we kept it up.
okay,
it's sort of like, it's not exactly true. When I
No.
named Mariah, I wanted a strong female name from the Bible, and I didn't want to go with the names that were so often used. So, uh, ironically, I didn't really put together at the time that they were rhyming.
Oh, really?
No,
I
it was
thought
more
you
of
did.
by accident. But for sure, although faith and grace are beautiful biblical names. I just wanted something different. And Moriah is the name of the mountain where Abraham goes to sacrifice.
Mount Moriah.
Yeah,
All right.
Moriah.
Okay. All
Yeah,
right. Okay. That's
and
interesting.
her name means provided by Jehovah. And one part of our testimony is, we were married 8 years before we had Josiah. So uh, we're very much know that God was the one who gave this child to us. So that's, uh, our children are very interesting testimonies. So for sure, um, on the third child, though, that one we said, well, we've started a tradition. We need to keep up with the tradition. So the second one was kind of by accident, but for sure, I knew before we got married that if we ever had a son, that boy would be named Josiah. So
I remember you guys telling me the story of Josiah because Josiah was he was 8 years old and served and stuff like that, and you wanted was almost a perfect little king and things like that, so you wanted that perfection of Josiah. I remember that story, but I didn't realize, I didn't recall now, I know, that it was so long after you were married before Josiah came into
mhm.
existence. I didn't realize it was so long. All right, okay, so Azariah is Azariah, yeah,
Josiah.
Josiah,
Mhm,
Mariah, and Azariah, right?
mhm.
I was because when I look at the name Mariah, I was trying to reflect on which lady that, yeah, I can't try that sound biblical, but I couldn't remember it. I'm saying, so now that you say it's Mount Moriah, now I understand. I was trying to find a name for a person, but now, no, okay, all right, okay. Again, live from Africa, Abidjan, and the Ivory Coast, in my friends. Rennie, I want to ask you, so let's go back to now. You decide to leave Rochester, and by the way, I just remember how my heart broke when you guys decided, when I know you guys were leaving, because you were so involved already in our worship team and thing like that. You had a great voice, and we're enjoying that. What was the driving force behind you leaving now from Rochester to go to Virginia? Remind me of what was the turning point and that.
Yeah, well, we had Josiah in February, and I think sometimes um, when you start having children, you have a desire and a need to be closer to family. Um, my dad is in an area where it's very hard to find a job. It's very rural, so really Vermont wasn't on our radar because of opportunities for us to grow. Although it's a beautiful state, there's not a lot of job opportunities. And we had godparents, my brother's godparents, and lifelong parents and friends of the family that we went to go be with. Um, and for sure, I wasn't interested in Florida because Florida is way too hot for a person from Vermont. And that's why we know God brought us to the equator of Cote d'Ivoire. God has an amazing sense of humor. So even in the thought of avoiding Florida in the heat, I'm in even just as much heat right now. So, you know, but yeah, the idea was that we'd be close to, although they're not our blood cousins, they were as if they were our cousins because we grew up our entire lives together. And the thought was we would raise children with our family. We have a different
Okay.
understanding looking back at it for sure. That season in Virginia uh, brought us to Africa because I don't know if we would have had the strength and faith and to go to Africa from Rochester because we had a lot of loved ones in Rochester because we were only in Virginia for a short period of time. Although we had this one family, we weren't really attached in the community. And we were in Fredericksburg, which is like an hour or so south of DC. Um, but for sure, when things in our life changed and we left the US, I don't know if we would have been ready to make that transition coming straight from New York. So we had our own
Mm.
ideas, but looking back, we knew that it was God getting ready to launch us.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. That's interesting. So you're saying that you if you were still in Rochester at that point, you would have been too connected to your
And
surroundings, so you might not be
yeah,
influenced by wanting to go to Africa on that opportunity.
too connected and too comfortable.
And to okay, okay, all right. Godfrey, what's your version on that?
No, that's that.
Agree?
I agree because we had two reasons. One for me was the family, like Renee said. The other one was the warmer weather, and I like to play golf, so that to me was perfect. And this
You know what? As
family
you
had,
say that, as you say that, I remember that we all were procrastinated for years, and I am still procrastinating.
you have to start. If it's in you, you won't quit.
I am still I can't quit what I didn't start. I'm still procrastinating. I left my whole set of golf clubs up in Rochester, and I still haven't gone to the golf course, not even once yet.
Once you start, you wonder why you didn't start sooner.
Wow, wow, this is interesting. Okay, so I'm curious now about okay, moving from Virginia to
Mhm.
Africa. That's a major move in every sense of the word. A Vermont girl
Mm.
leaving United States to go with her husband and child or children into Africa. Tell me tell me, how did that unfold? Because I know that was not from Renee. I'm sure that was all from Godfrey. So Godfrey, tell me what was the force of inspiration, motivation, or whatever to say, well, I'm gonna go back to Africa. I'm taking my family back to Africa. How did you come to that? What pulled you so hard?
Well, the first thing you want to say something?
No, I was just wanting to make sure that we acknowledge that Mariah was born in Virginia.
Oh, yeah. So during that
Right.
time, we'd had the second child, who was Mariah. But um, I said before that my parents. I grew up in Ivory Coast. My father worked for an institution called the African Development Bank, and so that's where I grew up. And so I always wanted to work for that institution. That's one. But also the timing was right in terms of where we were at. The opportunity showed up, and then they gave us an offer that was good. My pitch to Renee was that we'd be there for 2 years, would come back, and in fact, the bank had moved from Ivory Coast, where at the time we're in Tunisia, and Tunisia was near the what the north was it the sea, near Italy,
Mediterranean
near
Sea.
Europe. So we
Mm.
would go there and enjoy ourselves and be able to visit and do all those things together. And so that was my pitch to her, and she agreed. The agreement was we'd stay there for 2 years.
And
And
two now turns to what?
well, 2 years came up. I said, Renee, can we go back now? She goes, no, I'm having fun here. So that was, well, that's where that's, and I always check back and say, can we go back? She goes, no, it's okay. So, so
A
far, so good.
what? So
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 let me.
so so all right, I'm gonna come. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna tell me, how did you receive that, Renee? Before you leave, tell me, how did you receive that? Then I want to get to the transition, the experience, whether there was a culture shock. Was it what you anticipated? So tell me, first of all, before you get to the land and get the culture shock, because he got his culture shock with, maybe I assume, on the upside, your culture shock maybe on the other side. So maybe, so tell me, before you transition and actually leave Virginia to go to Africa, how did you come to that persuasion, or how did you conclude that before you get there, and what the experience was when you get there? How did you receive that? Oh yeah, we're gonna do it for 2 years, etc. How did you receive that?
So for me, I believe I just want to be really transparent because it will encourage somebody. When we went to Virginia, we were doing very well. We had bought a beautiful, beautiful home, good, good job. Um, for the whole time we had been married, Godfrey had never been a day without work. Never. If he ended something on a Friday, we had something new on a Monday, and God had really been incredibly faithful in providing
Wow.
us both with solid employment. And Mariah, ironically, we had come back from yeah, we had come back from Uganda after visiting, and Josiah had had emergency surgery in Uganda where he had his appendix out. And uh, ironically, when the children came into our lives, just to backtrack, uh, really how God did it in our lives with Josiah. uh, Godfrey had begged me to go back to college. He said, please go get your master's. I don't want you getting stuck in this entry level position. Go back and get your master's. I was like, I don't like school. I don't want to go to school, but if it's his will. And I just remember saying, God, if this is your will for our life, please give us our heart's desire, which is a child. So Godfrey went back to RIT, got his master's. I went to Nazareth, got my master's. And 2 weeks after we both graduated, I was pregnant. 2 weeks. God did that
Wow.
for us. With us honoring him, he did that for us. And then when we came back from Uganda, we were trying to adopt a child, and we just thought, it would be wonderful to adopt a child. And Josiah had an emergency uh, appendectomy, and we came home. And just a couple weeks later after that, God gave us Mariah. And that is a miracle, because as we are making or finding solutions, right? We're finding solutions for
Hmm.
this desire and need, and so God really, so in Virginia, the first 3 years were really good, and then the housing market fell out. And in 2008, if you can remember, people were being laid off their jobs. People were uh, losing all of their value
Yeah,
in their houses.
that's when
Uh,
things actually went downhill. Yeah,
Mhm.
you're right. Hmm.
People were buying houses for so much money, and then the value was so less. And in Godfrey's situation, if I remember correctly, he was getting a good salary, but they found out that if they get two young people who are wet behind the ears still to do his job and pay the same price for one experienced, they could get two inexperienced. So he ended up getting laid off from work. So there really was like
Oh,
a
okay.
domino effect where we had lost our job. We had a brand new baby, and our house that we had spent a lot of money on, basically, I think had lost half of its value in a short period of time. Um,
Wow.
and this person who had gone from never being in need of employment, like imagine throwing a worm out into a lake of fish and just being swallowed up every time. That was Godfrey and his work. All of a sudden, it was absolutely quiet, and it was a time of reflection where we had to stop and really seek God with our whole heart. And through I think it was like 100 resumes and maybe 10 interviews, there
Yeah.
was one door that was
Wow.
open.
Wow.
Hmm. Yeah, it was
Whew.
it was
Wow.
amazing. Hmm.
I
And
I
me, I'm
I
going to
I
tell you
didn't
the
I
truth. Huh?
go ahead.
No, it's important to know, as you know, it wasn't me just saying, "Oh, let's give it a try, honey. Let's see what happens." No, God had really brought us to the end of our understanding, and we had to really seek Him and see, God always makes a way of escape. What is it that God is trying to do in our life? Because it was really such a shakeup, because we had really been so incredibly blessed the first 10 years of our marriage, or 12 years of marriage, I guess at that point, really able to do a lot of things in a short period of time. The favor of God was upon us. And that is what led us to go to Tunisia. Um, yeah.
The context also is that we had choices at the time when we finally prayed and God did something. We had three choices. We had one in Stafford, one in what's it called, the Peace Corps, and then the African Development Bank. So I had to pray and decide what what to do, and I felt like we felt like that maybe the African Development Bank was the place to go. But the plan was 2 years. Just go there for
Mhm.
2 years, come back.
Mhm.
So you just
Yeah.
you just wanted to go until things cool down a bit. You can assume it might
Yeah.
cool down. So, okay, so now you guys decided to go. Renee, pack up and gone. Things may be gonna be better because it's really rocky here, and you got
Mhm.
to Africa now, and you're settling. What was the culture shock, if there was any, and what kind of adjustment did you have to make getting into this country, this culture, this new location? Tell me, how did that unfold for you?
Yeah. So Godfrey went before me, and I was given the responsibility to pack up a four-bedroom
Four
basement,
or five.
four-bedroom basement garage, 4,000 square foot,
Uh,
beautiful home into a
Oh my
40-foot container.
goodness, that's a big
And
house. That's a big
that was
house.
that was very traumatic for me because 20 feet of the uh, container was a car. So imagine taking an entire house and putting it in 20 feet. Huh? That was really amazing for me.
Oh
And
my goodness.
I had two babies. I had one that was 5 and
Oh
one that
my
was
goodness.
not even 2. So when you talk about culture shock, yes, I was technically in Africa, but I was in Northern Africa. So imagine what you think of uh, Libya and Morocco and Algeria. It's an Arabic, uh, a Muslim environment. Um, the country we went to is less than 1% Christian, and even less of that of Jewish people. The language is Arabic, and the second language is French. So, yeah, it was a very, very different place. We were on the Mediterranean Sea, and so it was wonderful in the fact that we had the sea is beautiful. Along the coast of the Mediterranean Sea, the land is very fertile, so it was lots of grapes and vegetables and lots of wonderful things there. I found the people really, from the outside, a little rough or hard, but when you could get into the environment, really kind and really gentle people. We had the opportunity to meet several families and get to know them, and it was wonderful. Um, when we left the US, Josiah had finished his first half of year in kindergarten, and I was confident that I would be able to get him through the second half of kindergarten until we figured out what we were going to do. And uh, I ended up homeschooling the children through Rebecca for 6 or 7 years until Josiah was in
Wow.
finished sixth grade. But so for me, I was very happy. Although I was having trouble communicating because I didn't know Arabic and I really didn't know French, um, the people were friendly and we were able to do what we needed to do. Um, and I was really mostly at home raising my children because they were very little still. And for me, it was a wonderful time because we were comfortable. The standard of living was very cheap. Food was very cheap, rent was very cheap. But I remember Tunisia as being many, many wonderful things. We went to actually an Anglican church because if you knew English and you knew Jesus, we were all together. Huh? It didn't matter where you came from. We all just found each other because it's mostly was
That was
foreign
like a
who were,
safe place to go, right? A safe place to
Mhm.
go.
Because although
Wow.
the country was Muslim, when the bank went to Tunisia, part of the agreement is that the staff of the bank could worship in the way that they wanted to. So even if you weren't Muslim, you could still bring your faith with you. And we just found each other. The Baptists were sitting along with the Anglicans, sitting along with the Church of God of Prophecy, sitting along with we were all together. So it was an interesting time. And I
Wow.
think my favorite part of being in the country were being with the missionaries because they had come to serve God in a really amazing capacity because the church is really underground there.
Yeah. Yeah, Tunisia was actually nice. As Renee, you can just imagine that even though Renee did not speak the language, she was able to still enjoy the place. The people are very gentle. They love children wherever you go, which actually it took me a while to get used to. Because you'd be taking to and somebody would reach over and touch him. Oh, when I kiss him, I'm like, what the heck? But I got used to it. That's the culture there. They love their children, and the children ended up loving it as well because everybody, wherever we went, they wanted to just talk and play with each, even though they didn't speak the language. So it was wonderful. Culturally, shock-wise, um, it's a different language. I mean, Africa is a big place, right? So if you go to one country, it's different. You go to another country, it's different, and that's part of Africa. And so the north is different, but we enjoyed ourselves. It was really nice.
And for me, I look
Wow.
very Tunisian. So me and the children, we fit in very well. Godfrey didn't have the same experience, huh?
Yeah.
So you look very Tunisian.
Yes, but also, Tunisians are very, 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 very fair skinned, and they're also very, very dark. But
Not as dark as me though.
I think they could be.
Very few.
Yeah, because they're in the Sahara Desert. The bottom part of the south of Tunisia is the Sahara. So yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
But it is a very, as the church began there in Carthage, where they assembled all the New Testament, it was amazing. We would see cathedrals that were then police bureaus or police stations, So, but for sure, it's a beautiful place, and God is moving in that area. So and actually, while we were there, they did have a dictator, and he ended up escaping. But we were there during the time he left the country, and I remember seeing the people in our neighborhood going back and forth with pitchforks and shovels and sticks, barricading the roads so people wouldn't come and steal from the neighborhood. And I just remember going outside saying, who's angry at who? Are we angry at Americans? And I remember my father saying, tell people you're Canadian. Everybody loves the Canadians. And we would just we'd listen to the gunshots at night and the helicopters flying by. And it was a very crazy time. But it was comforting to know that we weren't being targeted as Americans. But that was a very big deal for Tunisia. Tunisia is known as being the most liberal and most uh, uh, the women in Tunisia are the women of Arabic countries that are the most, what's the word? Liberated. Yeah. So it's really a neat place. Yeah. I enjoyed it.
Wow.
Mhm.
I had no clue on some of these experiences that you guys were having because we weren't communicating that much. For a moment I didn't even know where you guys were. I didn't know how to, how what was the contact like. I didn't know how. I don't even remember how we kind of linked back up. But that must have been a very, very emotional roller coaster, fitting in, scared sometimes, not having the language, but still at a fit in. Well, it's a good thing that you were in home most of the time, where your husband, you have your family, where your environment was, your language. Godfrey had to be what, interpreting for you when you guys got sometimes help you to understand some of the language, and he was your husband interpreter sometimes.
Yes, Godfrey's still interpreting for me. I saw that your wife is asking me if I'm speaking French. I have my own dialect of French. It's a little like English and a little bit like French. But if you're kind and you're gentle to people in the most situations, you can communicate. My French is very lacking, but yeah, we're working on it.
Just to go
So
back to
so
one
so
other.
so me. Go ahead, Godfrey.
Sorry, sorry.
Say that.
No. So because I think when you think of going to a foreign country, think of you have to be careful. All this thing. Tunisia was very safe, and it was to me. I used to tell Renee, this is like a little paradise nobody talks about. Very safe. We would go out, would hang out, would go to deep in whatever. No problem.
Very
It
secure.
was very secure. There's no problem.
The number one industry is tourism.
That was then, before when the dictator was there. Believe it or not, under him, there was no problem.
And me, I was so incredibly
Wow.
naive because everywhere you would look, the poster of the dictator would be on the side of the buildings, and I would say,
That's what
"Wow."
dictators do.
Yeah, I said these
Dictators,
people love.
they make sure
They
that you don't
love their
forget them, right?
president. They love their president. He's everywhere in every shop. This man is loved by his people. Oh, I found out later it wasn't like that. So he left, and
Yeah, yeah.
we
You
went
know,
through the Arab Spring in Tunisia. So we went from the housing crisis in Virginia to the Arab Spring, and they ended up climbing the walls of the embassy and destroying part of the embassy and destroying part of the American school. But it was a very interesting
You're
time.
still safe even with
We
that.
were still safe. Yeah.
thank God you guys are safe and you've been safe. So my wife is asking how about the kids and the French? I would imagine that they are well indulged in that.
Yeah, because both of the children take French as part of their normal
Curriculum.
curriculum. They've done very well. Me,
Good for
I'm
them.
still hobbling.
You can
Well,
manage.
you know what? If it was a requirement, if you weren't as
Mm,
comfortable as you are with your husband and stuff, you would have pushed yourself a little bit harder. But
hmm
because of
Yeah.
what you do, your job assignment is not like required,
hmm
right? So you made yourself comfortable and you're not pushing yourself as you would if you needed to.
hmm
Right. All
I'm
right.
put,
So
put
so 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 now you're moving from Tunisia and you're going to uh where do you go after that? You move from
Abidjan.
there to Liberia and Ghana. What's your next move from Tunisia to where to what's your next move?
So we spent 4 years in Tunisia, and then 8 years ago we came to Abidjan. And Godfrey was coming back to where he grew up. He had lots of memories. As soon as we landed in Abidjan, Godfrey had to show me the church that he attended, the place he used to live. So he was very excited. For me, I went through a real I I went through it. That was a hard transition for me. It was a spiritual
Mm.
transition, and it was also, I believe, what did I say it was? I think I said this was a downgrade. Yeah. So now I'm officially in Africa. In North Africa, it's not like what you think of when you think of Africa. It took me probably 6 months or so because when we ended up leaving Tunisia, uh, there were problems in Libya where Gaddafi had been taken over and he
Mhm.
was killed. So in Libya, we were having a lot of Libyans come into the country of Tunisia, and basically they were starting to look for Americans, or they were being sought after as because of kidnapping and stuff. So the job of Godfrey
Wow.
gave the Americans an option. You can either stay another year or 6 months or 9 months and transit to Abidjan, or because of the threat against kidnapping for young Americans. So Godfrey said, "Hey, we're going anyway. Let's go now." And so that's what we did. So that made it a little traumatic because I was happy. We found a really good cell group, a small church where the missionaries were meeting. Uh, I was comfortable, and that was a big upheaval because all of a sudden we went from living comfortable to rushing to get out of the country. So when I came here, it was for me it was a traumatic transition because I wasn't quite mentally and physically prepared for it. But and it was a really different kind of environment. Period of time, I did grow to love it very much, but initially it was very hard transition. And yeah, I did tell Godfrey it was a downgrade, but I take it back because I'm better at it now. But in the beginning, it was tough. But also, we came into a very different spiritual realm. Um, I went to Bible school after high school, and they taught you a lot of things about we battle not against flesh and blood, but against powers and spiritual powers and stuff like this. But I had now officially been in the true Africa part where the spiritual realm was very activated, and we've had
Mm.
to learn. I've had to learn a lot of things that I never, ever, ever knew about. because I'm in an environment where things are just very different. I'm growing up. If I didn't like you and you didn't like me, we would just avoid each other. But I now live in a part of the world where it can be more than that. So it's definitely, it's been a very eye-opening experience for me. We sat underneath the pastor for 4 years, who later went to Ghana, but I learned so incredibly much. And for sure, this time in our life has been the most difficult in some ways, yet has produced the most growth. Because, yeah, we've been in an environment where
Wow.
there's so much extra stuff, and it's been hard, but it's been really wonderful at the same time.
So basically, the spiritual side becomes a bit of a reality versus, when you talk about it.
Abstractly.
It's not abstract. It's a bit more of a reality than in the past. So that's what she's talking about. Yeah.
So somebody is asking what was the reason. My wife asked that too. Why did you leave Tunisia? It was a job, or what was the reason?
It was the job, but basically, this company is headquartered in Ivory Coast, but because of the turmoil that had happened in the past,
because
they had to.
But you have to explain it because people don't know it.
Oh, okay. So the company was founded in Ivory Coast, so the home country is Ivory Coast, and this company it's a bank, but serves the whole of Africa, and each country has to be a member of the country. But they've agreed when they founded it that the home base was Ivory Coast. So during when the previous president was Houphouët Boigny, when he died, after his death, there was a bit of chaos, and it climaxed to the point where it was not safe. So the bank, in an emergency, moved out and went to Tunisia. So, and then when they had the elections in Ivory Coast, then they mandated for them to come back to their home base. So that's why we came back here.
So they were
So
planning.
they demanded for them to come back.
Yes.
Yeah.
They were planning on everyone coming back to Ivory Coast, but because of the problems in Libya and them specifically looking for American children, they gave us the option to come back earlier than planned because of that threat. So we knew eventually.
So they were actually looking for American children.
It was happening in Libya, and Libya, they share the same border of Tunisia. So the idea was that they, bon, I don't know anybody who actually had been kidnapped, but there were threats of it. So they just allowed the Americans to get out of the situation. And in my mind, I think maybe even at the time that when we said we'll go for 2 years, and then we had the option of going back, it came quicker than we had expected. Not that we were waiting for it, but I don't think we were really prepared to go to the Ivory Coast. I think that was kind of a quickly rushed thing. And so, when you make plans for something, you want time to process what that means. So as I didn't have that time to process it, it was really destabilized me. So, but yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So because of the
Wow.
crisis that was happening here, they brought it to Tunisia.
I could imagine feeling safe, but but with the uncertainties. So one question that were they? Well, you didn't know of anybody who were captured, but were the idea would be was the idea that if they captured someone, they would hold them for ransom or something like that, maybe.
That's the general idea. I know this
Right.
sounds terrible, but even now, if you have certain terrorist groups that are kidnapping, if you have a local person, you know, the local person's value, the cash that you'll get from a local person versus a foreigner. If you can get like the child of an ambassador, or if, because there's different ranks of value, quote unquote, in the eyes of a kidnapper, you can take a child who's local, but for sure, if you have someone connected to a diplomat or a embassy or something like that, the thought is that they will have more value, not in the eyes of God, but
Understandable.
uh-huh. So
Understandable. Wow. That is interesting. That's very interesting. Very interesting. So Godfrey works now. He's working with the bank. And how long that 2 years turn into now, Godfrey? The 2 years turn into what?
I think
Are
it's
we
either
counting the
11 or
months as years and count the years as months and count what them? How are we counting them now?
I think it's 12 now. 12.
So 12. Wow. What's the projection? What's the projection in the mind of what might be in the next what?
I don't
Just a
know.
projection. Nobody knows what happens tomorrow, but what's the projection?
Of how long we'll be here?
Yeah, or is it going to be 2 more years that turn 12 more or what?
It might be that. I think we just do it that way. Two, you can 2 years at a time.
2 year at a time, right? 2 year at a time, which is 12 at a time. So it's 12 and 12, 24.
24.
No, at
No, I'm saying
12
I'm
now
saying
and
2 years. The first 2 years
Oh,
turn 12 years now. So
yeah,
I'm just
yeah, yeah.
speculating that another 2 more years might be 12 more.
No,
So
let's see. We'll see.
yeah, let God lead. But for sure, Josiah went back to school when he was he went to a real school, left homeschooling as he entered seventh grade, and he's graduating from high school this year. So, and Mariah, she's in eighth grade. Um, she is attending a school that I work at. When the children left the house to be educated, I went to work at a American Abeka school. So Abeka is out of Pensacola. They have a homeschooling. It's the same homeschooling curriculum I was using with the children, and they've made it to it's for individual families, like missionary families or classrooms. So I'm teaching the children in my school the exact same thing I taught my own children. And most of my children are French speaking children. So I'm teaching them English and how to read and write and stuff like that. So Mariah and I
Hmm.
attend the same school. I work with the 4 and 5 year olds. And then next year, yeah. So, so uh, I teach Bible and language and everything that the kids will need to know. So through
So
that curriculum.
the versatility of Renee is blossoming in Africa.
Yeah. Yeah, we're growing still. We're definitely growing still.
Wow. Wow, man. Congratulations to you both. Godfrey, what ministry has been like to you guys now in the church? What ministry has been like? Other than the secular field, what ministry has been like? Church life, what is it like now for you guys?
Um, I think Renee is more into ministry than I am in terms of serving, because Renee is an avid singer. She's there Wednesday, goes to practice on Saturday, and sings on Sunday. Since COVID, I'm not as much. I tend to stay home a bit with the children, and I watch it online. But at some point, I was in the ministry. I led the men's ministry for a bit. I remember asking for advice on that one.
Hmm.
Uh, I do some things in the church, um, but yeah, don't know if I'm answering that
No,
question.
I think for sure he's helped with the media as he has a computer background and prayerfully. But one thing I want to just point out also is that we found out maybe 2 years after we started attending this church that it's the same church Godfrey would go to as a child. So where he would live, he would walk to this place. And I remember when I met him, he told me, I would go to this church where the white missionaries opened. And when we went, the first day I came to Abidjan, he showed me this is where I would come to church. I would walk down from here. But it was like 2 years later that we realized that we're attending and our children were attending the same church that Godfrey would had attended as a child.
Yeah,
It's shocking.
The same church by name or by location?
by name.
hmm It's the same church, but it has changed locations due to size. Like when
Okay.
it was very
Okay.
small.
Okay.
hmm Yeah. So
Okay. Okay. So the same body of people moved to another
mhm.
location.
Yeah, yeah. It
That's
was a it
interesting.
was
Very
initially
interesting.
made as a place for missionaries to fellowship because during the week they were doing their ministry, and it was a time for them to be refilled and
Hmm.
come and be able to have fellowship as individuals versus serving and leading other people to the Lord.
Wow. This is a great story, and I never know you guys. I, I had no clue the depth of your story, and this I've learned so much about you guys tonight and your journey. I've learned so much about your journey. Man, this is just incredible. I want to thank you guys for joining me and to really, really and be so open too, because you guys are open and very open and and to the point. I had no doubt that Renee would be, because I know Renee was, Godfrey told me that, that he doesn't do much talking, but, and I knew Godfrey, but I'm almost surprised how much I heard from Godfrey tonight. So that's very, very interesting. That's very interesting. I appreciate you guys, and everybody's healthy, everybody's doing good, and things are going great for you guys. At least you guys are looking as good as you could look. They say good looks is deceiving, but I don't think I'm being deceived. You guys looking as good as you could look. So there is no indication of no stress, no indication of no short, no indication of no struggles. If it's there, I don't see it. I don't see it. I don't see it. Right, Godfrey. I don't see it. I'm saying I don't see it. You can't judge the book by the cover. I know that, but I can't. I don't see it.
Thank God.
You
Thank,
haven't go ahead.
go ahead.
You haven't asked us about our surprise that came 3 years ago.
Oh, well, I can't answer or ask all the surprises. So you tell me something that I should have known that I don't ask. What I need to know that I didn't ask.
No, just
Um,
that after
Azariah.
yes, yes, we had a surprise baby.
After 21
Okay,
years
so
of marriage.
what make Azariah a surprise?
Well, for us, we had Josiah and Mariah, and we weren't expecting another child. We definitely didn't, knowing how it was so hard to conceive with the first two. We really thought for sure we were all done, and really, that was the big surprise for us that we
Hmm.
have. As of now, we have 18 years old and 14 years old, and now we have a 3-year-old. So she's been an
Oh
amazing blessing.
wow.
But
Oh
after
wow.
I,
Okay.
yeah, after I had spent 14 years home with the children, I went back to work and was very surprised and really, but I just thank God for his sovereignty and his hand of protection. And she's been a great, great joy. One thing we didn't mention is that 7 years ago, my brother had told me that my mom was starting to uh, forget things and need a little bit more assistance. So
Oh.
7 years ago, we brought my mom here. So
Oh, you
she's
brought
been,
your mom there?
yeah, she's been with us for 6 or 7 years now, and
Oh.
she came very, very independent, and she's in her she's in a stage now where she needs full and total care. So
Oh.
as she has deteriorated, God has given us this really unexpected blessing that instead of grieving this process, that God has brought joy back into the home, because we have teenagers, they're less wanting to hang out with mom and dad, and it
Hmm.
was sad to see my mom decline, but Azariah has just brought light into the home with two teenagers that are more independent, and my mom who is failing in
Hmm.
health. It's brought life to the home, so it's been a really special blessing. So yeah, that
My
was our big
present,
surprise.
well, my present best wishes to your mom. We face these times in our lives, and these are times that we can't avoid. They happen to us. And some of us. My wife just buried her father in October.
Sorry.
So we and he declined a little bit too, and we went on to be with the Lord, but yeah, we have these times in our lives, and thank God that you guys were able to bring her home to
Hmm.
keep her in a homely environment. Yeah,
Yeah.
and it shows how the relationship has grown,
Hmm.
and how God in His wisdom and power has caused things to gel together, that you would have the heart and the compassion to take your mom from United States, to take her, bring her into Africa
Hmm.
in a time when she is not as healthy and helpful and able to be independent and run around. God bless you for that. God bless you for that. I'm sure that she is praying God's blessings on you both, and I hope that that becomes your reality from this day going forward. May God bless you, and may God bless your family. I'm so excited to talk to you guys, and God bless. And Mariah is what, 10 years older than Azariah?
Yeah, 11. Yeah.
They,
Yeah.
they
Wow,
they fight like they're the same age sometimes.
they do what?
They fight like they're the same age sometimes. Amazing.
So Azariah is a little tyrant.
Oh my gosh, yeah,
No, she's a lot of fun.
yeah.
She's a little tyrant. If they're fighting like that, and again, we understand the because we've been there, right? We've been there with that kind of experience. And I think what happened with Mariah is that she felt like Azariah was taking her territory. So she's fighting for territory, and we had that experience because our last son is 7 years younger than our middle son. So they had their moments too. So we we had our surprise long time ago, but we know what it means to get surprises. So
Yeah.
we there. Oh my goodness! Wow, I can imagine. I can imagine. So she's only three, but she's not making Mariah walk over her. She's defending her territory as well.
Yeah.
God bless you guys, man. It's good to see you. It's good to see you. And I wish you the best. I wish you the best going forward. I wish you the best for your future. I hope that one of these days we'll be able to run back into each other,
Mhm.
and maybe we can do something together. I don't know what it might be, Godfrey. I don't know if it's in my latter years that we will play golf together. I don't know what it is. I don't think we I don't know what we'll do together, but we'll see. Maybe somewhere down the road, Renee will sing something for me again, with me. Who knows? We don't know, but good to see you guys, man. What else you want to say to somebody that's? And by the way, my friend, if you didn't share this yet, if you didn't share this yet, it's a good time to share it. It's a good couple, a good couple. You look at them and you can see this is a really, really good, unique couple. And their story is amazing. How they met, how the Ugandan guy met the Vermont girl. I'm fascinated with that, and I'm sure Godfrey's gonna go back and listen this, and he's gonna watch it. But you know what he told me earlier? He told me, Renee. He said, if it's good, he will share it. That's what he told me. So
It's,
I,
I was just joking. I was just
what was
joking.
that?
I said if it's good, I'll share it.
so I'm sure when the daylight tomorrow, he's gonna get up and start share everywhere. I'm sure he's gonna share everywhere, because now he doesn't have to tell anybody individually this his story. They can just listen this story and be intrigued and fascinated by this story, streaming live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. It's everywhere one can listen it. My friends, hit the share button. Tell your friends about it. These are my good friends. And if you didn't hear when I started, their very first baby, I dedicate their first baby, Josiah, a long time ago. How old is Josiah? 18 years now?
Just turned 18 a few weeks ago.
Turn 18 years old. God bless them. And you guys going to be 25 years of marriage, coming up in April.
Yes, next month.
Congratulations to you guys. A quarter century coming up. I was just 44 2 weeks ago. So
Wow.
I'm a little bit ahead of you guys, but keep
What is
on
that
coming,
like?
man. Don't stop.
What is 44 like? My
keep
gosh.
keep on coming. You'll find out. It's only a little bit more
Congratulations.
than 24. It's only a little more than 24. So you keep on coming. Wow,
Thank
God
you.
bless you guys, man. I love you
Thank you
guys,
so
man,
much
and
for
I
having
appreciate
us.
you guys.
Thank
It's
you.
just my pleasure. I hope you're enjoying it. You enjoyed it
We
as much
enjoyed
as
it.
I enjoyed it. And
We
I
enjoyed
don't
it.
know, is Siggy Simond. This is one of worthwhile sharing. All right, thank you for sharing. Make sure you do that. And that's my sister out there in Jamaica. She's watching too. And God continues blessing upon you guys. And my wife is there, and you know that she's your cheerleader from ever. She
Yeah.
loved Godfrey and Renee so
Thank you.
much. She's your cheerleaders for all the time, and I know she wished that you guys were still here and we were still fellowshipping
Yeah.
together. We we
Yeah.
we 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 weren't prepared for the transition, but we didn't have any control over it. So
Yeah. God's perfecting
and
something.
God, and one of these days, I don't know if God will eventually invite me to Abidjan. I don't know, but we'll see.
You're more than
Uh,
welcome. More than welcome. Oh my gosh,
Oh
yes.
my goodness. May God bless you guys. Thank you for joining
Thank
me.
you.
I thank
Thank
you,
you so
Renee,
much.
for
Thanks everyone
Thank
waking
you
for
up.
so
listening.
much.
Thank
Huh?
you.
Thank you, Miss Beckford.
Thank you,
Thank
everyone.
you for waking up for this conversation, Renee. I have learned a lot about you guys. I'm glad you responded. All right, so listen, you hang right in there, right? Stay right there. When I go offline, I'm gonna go off. I'm gonna play my outro and come back, and then I will chat with you guys a bit just to thank you offline. All right, my friends, if
Thank
you just in the vicinity and you didn't know that I write a book, I'm just gonna tell you I do write a book. So check the seven churches of Asia Minor, the churches in Revelation. Have you ever wondered how relative they are to the churches today? Get a copy of this book, The Seven Churches of Asia Minor, and it will unveil truth to you. Chances are you'll find your own church related to one of these churches, and you might not like what you see, or maybe you love what you see. But get a copy of this book and begin to discover why Christ sent those seven letters to seven churches and addressed them separately based on their character.
Every Wednesday, 8 p.m., join ORV Ministries on Let's Talk with the Doc, live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. There is a story, something to encourage and inspire you. You may even have a life-changing experience. You never know what's next or who will join the conversation. Stay connected. Subscribe to ORV Ministries YouTube channel. Follow on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter.
Well, thank you for checking in on ORB Ministries. I trust that you will share with your friends, subscribe, hit the bell for notification, and stay tuned because you never know what's next or who will join the conversation.